All right, you've heard the phrase trigger warnings and safe spaces, but is shielding kids from points of view that they don't like doing them and the nation a disservice? And does that connect to the presidential election we just had? Well, that's a position New York Times columnist Nick Kristof is taking, writing in part, quote, "I share apprehensions about President-elect Trump, but I also fear the reaction was evidence of how insular universities have become. When students inhabit liberal bubbles, they're not learning much about their own country. To be fully educated, students should encounter not only Plato, but also Republicans. We liberals are adept at pointing out the hypocrisies of Trump, but we should also address our own hypocrisy in terrain we govern, such as most universities. Too often we embrace diversity of all kinds except for the ideological ones. Repeated studies have found that about 10% of professors in the social sciences and the humanities are Republicans. When universities are echo chambers, they become conservative punchlines, and liberal hand-wringing may be one reason Trump's popularity has jumped since his election." Now, that's an extension of the same line of thinking that has led dozens of universities to cancel graduation and other notable speakers after students complained that they didn't like their worldview. Jeannie, even though you're all 22 years of age here, you have been on college campuses and seen. Has this changed over the years, where the protectionist bubble around the kids that you can't talk about unpopular things, you can't, God forbid you don't subscribe to a popular belief here, you're going to be singled out or attacked even for those thoughts? Has it gotten worse?
I do think it has gotten worse. I think we misunderstand, however, if we think it has gotten worse for ideological or partisan reasons. The reason it has gotten worse, in my view, is because colleges are incredibly scared about being sued by parents, by governments. There's a whole lot of fear there. So students are shielded from everything now in a way they may not have been 20, 30 years ago. So my frustration is when people suggest, it's faculty because they're ideologically liberal, so they don't want to entertain other ideas. It's not that. It's that universities and colleges have turned increasingly into businesses where parents are paying a lot of money to send their children there, and they, rightly so, want the service to be worth the money. And for that, they expect certain things, and universities feel like they have to deliver. So in my mind, it is a bigger issue than just what I appreciate what Kristof is saying. I think it is a very narrow look at a much larger problem of colleges and universities that have become businesses as opposed to liberal arts educational institutions. And when you move in that direction, you find a lot of fear out there, whether it's the culture of rape, whether it's the culture of partying, whether it's, anything.
You can get paralyzed by the
paralyzing.
fear. I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm going to make you president of Rutgers University. And a non-hypothetical situation, Condoleezza Rice. She then a member, or outgoing member, just soon after being in the Bush administration, obviously with the unpopular Iraq War, I guess on her report card, if you will, invited to speak at the graduation at Rutgers. Students who have the right to voice their opinion, First Amendment, God bless them, says no, we don't agree with her, we don't want to let her speak at our graduation. We don't want her. Eventually, she gets disinvited or takes down or steps away from the speaking engagement. If you were the president of the college, would you have told those protesters, you have a right to protest, but you don't get to determine who gets to speak and who doesn't, just because you don't happen to agree with everything they say? This isn't a war criminal. This is somebody who served this country as a public servant. I found it reprehensible, not only just what happened, and I had a lot of problems with the Bush administration, but I found it reprehensible that the administration catered or even caved to those kind of voices.
Well, I'd like to believe that I would allow her to speak, although I disagreed with much of her policies, and her service I thought was not distinguished, although it was scandal-free to some extent, but I disagreed with her policies. But I think what Jeannie says is right. There is the pressure of not being sued here on the East Coast, where there are a lot more liberals. But if you take a university in the South or in the West, where there are more conservative folks,
on the faculty, apparently, you go to the SEC, if you will, apparently the majority of the faculty is progressive there as well, maybe not to the degree you'll find at an NYU or wherever else, but the same kind of issue.
But the point you were making, and Nick Kristof was in this piece, is that liberals and Americans are better served by hearing all the arguments, and in the marketplace of ideas, deciding the value and the worth of those ideas.
I'm worried that I know even my kids' school, I know I got to hit a break. They were offered somewhere, if you don't want to take the test the next day after the election because you're so upset, we'll understand. The real world's not like that. The real world is you don't always win, you don't always get your way, and somebody's got to pull up your big boy and big girl pants here and deal with adversity. And
I
that
tried
to
using
me,
that excuse with you the day after the election. Didn't work.
I pulled my big boy pants up too, we all did. All right, coming up next, New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio faces re-election just 11 months in today. A local paper accusing him of pay-to-play in his fundraising, and even has the mayor himself soliciting contributions. Just pre-election hype, or is the mayor now in the hot seat?